and the fact that Trump has endorsed Nick Fuentes. So, as you all know, and let me just give you a backstory or backdrop of what happened. Nick Fuentes is someone who was cancelled by the right wing. He was cancelled at the age of 18. They made sure that he wasn't able to be on any kind of social media platforms. They took him off all payment processes. They didn't allow him to engage with anyone from a social media perspective. They completely cancelled the guy. And the reason they did so is because he was anti-Israel. And when this mass censorship was going on, many people thought, oh, this is the left versus the right. And we always said it's not. How can it be the left versus the right when only, and I mean only, certain types of people are being cancelled? So if it really was the left wing, and the left wing were using their power to cancel people on the right, why wasn't people like Ben Shapiro cancelled? Why wasn't Jonathan or Jordan Peterson cancelled? Or anybody else in the Israeli wire? The reason is quite simple. Because the cancellation wasn't based on you being right wing. The cancellation was based on whether you support Israel or not. And so Jordan Peterson, just think about this logically. Jordan Peterson is someone who was right wing, someone who spoke out against LGBTQ, attacked the transgender community, and did a big palaver about pronouns or the use of pronouns. Despite that being the case, he was never cancelled. If it was truly about triggering people, if it was really about offending people, if it was truly about the left, why wasn't someone like Jordan Peterson cancelled? Ben Shapiro, he said Arabs live in sewers. He insulted Muslims. He insulted Arabs. He was never cancelled. Because cancellation wasn't based on attacks on ethnic minorities. It wasn't attack on the left. Because these would have been primed to be cancelled. And yet they were the last people remaining to such an extent that that only certain people were cancelled. And it was only Nick Fuentes who was cancelled. Other people were cancelled as well. But what they did was they said, we're going to cancel anyone who's going to be a threat to Israel, who's going to call out Israeli or Jewish or Zionist power. And we're going to make it look like we care about other minorities, so we'll cancel other people. So some people became collateral, but largely speaking, their actions or their target was against anyone who was anti-Israel. They made sure that anyone like that never had a mainstream platform because they didn't want that conversation to happen in the mainstream. And that's the real reason why he was cancelled. And so what happened was people like Laura Loomer claimed that they were cancelled, but she was only cancelled as a collateral because the main basis of the cancellation was people who were anti-Israel. And so I had a back and forth with Laura Loomer and discussed it and basically destroyed her in her comments and position. Because the ADL, as an example, went against Laura Loomer. But after October the 7th, it didn't matter if you were the ADL, left wing, Laura Loomer, the right wing, all of them joined together and became part of the same group, became part of the same crew. They had belief on one thing and one thing alone, fight against enemies of Israel. And they worked together to cancel everyone. And so the ADL and Laura Loomer, they no longer had any differing positions. And that just proves the point that we're saying. That when it comes to Jewish Zionists, they're always on the same page all the time. And if you look at it, and this is the conversation I had with Laura Loomer, I said, Laura Loomer has access to the White House. She has access to the Trump administration. She attacks Trump regularly if any of his comments or statements are against the state interests of the state of Israel, Zionists, or Jewish people. Marjorie Taylor Greene only spoke up about the H-1B visas and about the Epstein files. And she's been one of the biggest supporters of Trump. But despite that being the case, Trump attacked Marjorie Taylor Greene. And the reason is because people who are next to Trump advising him are not telling him that when Laura Loomer attacks you, that it's happening. And they'll highlight the fact that when Marjorie Taylor Greene disagrees. And it shows that who's controlling the ear of Trump and who's controlling what he thinks and what he says. And it is Zionists like Zionists like Laura Loomer. And you saw the cancellation of Marjorie Taylor Greene based on that. But the cancellation doesn't end there. As you know, Vish Bura, who is the producer of Matt Gaetz, has also been cancelled. He's been fired by OAN News. And the reason is because he did a couple of tweets against Zionists, against people who weren't America first, and which the Zionists will claim that he has been anti-Semitic. Because there was a video he did where he goes in and shoots people who are not America first, but put a foreign nation first, and they look like insects or rodents. And so the cancellations in full effect. There was a Russian actress who did an interview with Nick Fuentes. She's again been dropped from her upcoming movie, and she's been dropped from sponsors. So all of this cancellation still there, this time by the right. But again, it's against anyone who speaks against Israel, anyone who speaks against Zionist, or anyone who speaks against Jewish supremacy. So as we said, and as I always say, this isn't a left v right. This is a Zionist versus anti-Zionist. The cancellation is only coming from them. And so after October the 7th, the world started waking up. The world started realizing what's happening. We all became big. I became big. Nick became huge. Everyone became aware of what's happening. Everyone was aware that the Zionists control the world. They control all aspects of our society. They control the media. They control Hollywood. They control the NGO group. They control the finance sector. They control the tech sector. They control the governments. They bomb Gaza. They control the direction of the United States and Europe in terms of from military actions and the world. And people woke up. And so people like me became big. People like Myron became big. People like Nick Fuentes became huge. And so he went on a huge run. He went on podcast after podcast from Bradley Martin to Glenn Greenwald, culminating in an interview with Tucker Carlson. And when Tucker Carlson interviewed Nick Fuentes, it caused a huge split amongst MAGA. MAGA was split in two. You had the Israel-controlled MAGA, and you had the America First MAGA. The Israel-controlled MAGA was represented by people like Ben Shapiro, was presented by people like Mark Levin, was presented by people like Ted Cruz. All of these people were never Trumpers, but they are part of the Israel First branch of MAGA. And the other side, which was the America First part of MAGA, was represented by people like Candace Owens, Nick Fuentes, and Tucker Carlson. And so what you had is a huge split. And what they did was, the Zionists, they attacked, and they wanted Tucker Carlson cancelled. They got the Heritage Foundation to basically disavow Nick Fuentes, and got the Kevin Roberts, the head of the foundation, to apologize after apologize after apologize. Humiliation ritual after humiliation ritual after humiliation ritual. And they continue to attack anyone and everyone who agreed with Tucker. From Megyn Kelly, who's an extreme Israel First Zionist, to any other person who did so. And they all stood on this ground, which was that they truly represented Donald Trump. And therefore, the America First brand were an anathema to the ideology of Trump. And the America First element of this split was represented as a different faction, a new faction, a faction that is going to take over the Trump movement, the new America First, or the real America First. No one knew where J.D. Vance stood. No one knew where Trump stood. Trump then came out yesterday and was asked, sorry, it was today, I believe. It was yesterday or today. He was asked, about the Tucker Carlson interview. Let's see what he had to say.
With Tucker Carlson, but you can't tell him who to interview. I mean, if he wants to interview Nick Fuentes, I don't know much about him, but if he wants to do it, get the word out. Let him, people have to decide. Ultimately, people have to decide. The mayor of New York, I will say, would like to meet with us, and we'll work something out. But he would like to come to Washington and meet, and we'll work something out. We want to see everything work out well for New York.
You yourself had dinner with Nick Fuentes at Mar-a-Lago a few years ago. What role should he play in the conservative movement?
Well, I didn't know he was coming, and he was with, as you know, somebody, Kanye. And Kanye asked if he could have dinner, and he brought Nick. I didn't know Nick at the time. And he did. He came, and along with a few other people. He brought a few people with him. Meeting people, talking to people, like for somebody like Tucker, that's what they do. People are controversial. Some are, some aren't. I'm not controversial, so I like it that way. Okay?
He's definitely not controversial. He is right about that, for sure. And so, as you can see here, he's basically not avowed or disavowed Nick Fuentes. He said, let's get the word out. What does he mean by that? What does he mean by get the word out? What is the word or the information that Nick Fuentes is relaying that Trump wants out there? Is it Nick's position on Israel? Is it the fact that the Zionists control the United States of America? But quite clearly he said, let that information out. Get it out. If that's not an endorsement, I don't know what an endorsement is. Now, he says he doesn't know much about him, but quite clearly he knows enough about him to speak about him. He knows enough about him to know that there is a fracture in his movement. And I do believe that he had to make this move in order to keep his popularity, because if he had attacked Nick Fuentes, he knows that would have been, and or Tucker Carlson, he knows that would have been a major split within the MAGA movement, and he never would have been able to get that movement back into one again. And I think with this statement, because immediately after that, Nick Fuentes said, "Thank you, Mr. President." I'm paraphrasing roughly, but that's what he said. And so quite clearly, this had a huge effect, and basically brought the entire America First aspect of the MAGA movement back towards Trump. And you saw over the last day or so, people like Laura Loomer, people like Eyal Yakubi lose their minds. They were backtracking for the last 24 hours, trying to make it look like that they'd never asked anyone to cancel Tucker. They never asked anyone to cancel Nick Fuentes. All they were asking for was that people disagree with them. Like, they can interview, but then you need to disagree. But that's clearly not the case. When you look at what they did with the Heritage Foundation, when you look at what they did, and the Heritage Foundation actually admitted that they had numerous calls to not platform Tucker anymore. And so they failed in their attempt to cancel Tucker, to cancel Fuentes. And it looks like Trump has come out and quite clearly implied his endorsement of Nick Fuentes. And I think what that represents is the new order of MAGA, which is going to be America First, which is going to be headed up by people like Nick Fuentes and Tucker Carlson.